Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming in. Sorry, it's a little bit late. We took a little bit more time to get the registrations downstairs sorted. Welcome to this information session. Thank you for coming along tonight, taking the time, and of course, growing interest in what's happening in Gladesville with the Masterplan. Before I like to get started, I need to acknowledge the traditional custodians on land and waters of Gladesville and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We also are joined tonight by several councillors, hundreds of councillors. A couple are running a little late, but we are joined by Councillor Tatiana Begara, Councillor Ross Williams, Councillor Mark Lane, and in the back there, Councillor Carla Cassar, Councillor Tadej Sleeman and Julia Prieston will be coming up very soon. This evening is all about your feedback. So, for context, this has been about a 9-year journey for Huntersville Council from originally a motion that I put to start master planning all of Gladesville, and it was really a reaction to multiple planning proposals that were developer-led that had been ranging from 16 to 35 odd stories, and we felt as a council had not contextualised the whole of Gladesville, and the original motion started to put some context around the areas between Junction Street all the way to Pittwater Road, and the concept was essentially to pedestrianise the areas behind Victoria Road, very much like the pedestrian areas that you see places like Double Bay behind the Sheep Hotel, where there is public library, public domain and amenities. So this journey has been one that's overlaid obviously by a lot of time, but increasing pressure from the state government also not only to create precincts like this, but also overlaid planning controls in taking powers essentially away from councils and giving access to developers to bypass our planning controls and go straight to the state government. So overlaid with what we're doing at Gladesville, there's a lot of context with the history of what's happened with the precinct and with the master plan, but also I suppose council's intention was to make sure that we were hyper-focused on what used to be called the key site, which is the Gladesville Shopping Village development, and actually look at the entire precinct and how we could actually create better pedestrian access, better access across the road to Trim Place, to the public school, to the RSL, how we could create better pieces of public infrastructure, walkability, cyclability, and of course advocating the state government for better public transport outcomes. So without further ado, I'll get into the presentation. I reiterate that tonight really is about your feedback. This process has gone to what's called Gateway. It means it's with the State Department of Planning. They will collate the feedback along with Huntersville Council, and then any amendments that will be made will be fleshed out in the plan and go back to Council and to the State Department of Planning for adoption at some point. I encourage you all, before you make submissions and the information we're gathering from you tonight, if you do want to be better informed, we do have a lot of the information about Gladesville on the wall here, and of course, for any of you that haven't, please jump on the Huntersville Council website and read through the documentation. It is fairly fulsome, it's a lot of information for you to digest, but tonight really is about gathering that feedback, and then if you are making submissions, please make sure that you do that before the 24th of April, which is the date at which we'll be cutting off submissions to go to the Department of Planning. The technical documents are all on the website, so we'll get into some of those today. We've got the Huntersville Council Town Planner and some of our strategic planning staff here. We're also joined by Nick Tucker, the General Manager, who I'll hand over to now.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and welcome everyone. Thanks for coming along. As the Mayor has noted, this is an overview of the planning proposal, taking you through what is in that document, and we certainly want you to ask questions through our Menti system, which we've got an app on the paper there, or the one that's will be on the screen shortly. But also happy if you write questions down and hand them up to staff. We'll collate them and try and answer those at the end of the presentation. We'll get through as many of those questions as we possibly can, and then if we we can't get to them, we'll give you an undertaking and we'll put all frequently asked questions up online and answer those questions online for you as soon as we possibly can over the next 48 hours. There has been some comment about the numbers here today and people can and can't get in, but we have got everyone in that's actually turned up tonight, and thank you for your patience. But I have asked the staff to look to do another one of these next week in case people who weren't able to attend would like to attend. It'll only be for those that just haven't been able to attend tonight, but we'll put that out on our website tomorrow to give people that opportunity. We do have the video going tonight, so if you don't want yourself to be recorded, just put up your hand and let us know. Staff will work around that. As I said, we've got the Minty code, which is here. If you put your phone up, that'll bring you up and you can ask the questions through that. Staff are going to monitor the questions and collate them and try and get them into groups of questions. So we'll try and answer as many as we possibly can and cover as much area as possible. And also, as I say, there's a written paper for comments as well. And then following the presentation, we'll all be around with the staff and other staff at the back of the room as well to talk to the various plans and things on the wall as well. So I'll now hand over to Kieran, who is our strategic manager of strategic planning, and he's going to do the presentation, as I say. Leave the questions till the end, but we're going to have plenty of time for questions at the end. So I'll let Kieran get through his presentation first, and then we'll get you to ask questions. Thank you. Thanks, Kieran.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks everyone for turning up tonight. It'd be great, I suppose, for everyone to put on their town planning hats. This is a community-led project, so it's taken on board a heap of community feedback so far, and it's very much an opportunity for everyone to understand the process from the perspective of what's been done so far and what the community wants to see ultimately. So this project, it's got a few components to it. Its geographical area is really the business area of Gladesville, from Pittwater Road down to around the Gladesville Police Station, roughly down by Flagstaff Street and also Victoria Road. So for those who appreciate a map, obviously here, so all of the area on that right-hand side is zoned MU1, which is mixed use. Effectively, all those commercial uses under our planning system. So the few components that I was just talking about, the technical stuff, if you like, that take a vision and turn it into something that can be done physically. There's quite a bit to it, but the main aspects that we're looking at the moment are a planning proposal, which effectively changes the planning rules, the strict planning rules under the local environmental plan. We've got a development control plan that provides the guardrails, if you like, for the development. So we can say we can go to this height, this development density, but what are setbacks going to look like? What are the pedestrian areas going to look like? What are the streets, trees, the pavement, and the list goes on and on. So it's really providing that extra level of detail on how the area is going to present. There's also critically the infrastructure planning, so more people, more development. There's a requirement for better active transport, public transport. Obviously, Victoria Road is a substantial barrier, I suppose, to a lot of efficient movement around the area. So it's something that's just absolutely critical to this project, and is being done at the same time as looking at planning controls and our development control plan. So the planning proposal we're talking about, there's a key site that runs effectively the Gladesville shopping village. So you go from Massey Street down to Cal Street, and then Flagstaff Street and Victoria Road is effectively a boundary that there's quite a few lots obviously along Victoria Road that don't form part of that. So it's effectively the Gladesville shopping village site and surrounding development. So that's where we're looking to more substantially change controls in the local environmental plan to allow for extra height and extra density, with a view to some objectives which I will just move on to in a second. This slide really goes through the process. So we started back well before 2021 but there's been the development of what we call block studies, how buildings might look. They were put on public exhibition along with some economic work and some transport work, and council received a lot of feedback on that. Now, between that piece of consultation and I suppose the next big step, obviously council identified a preferred approach, which was the 15-storey buildings for the key site, and a couple of new open space areas, which the community have said were highly important to this project, and obviously the connectivity as well. So linking Victoria Road back into the key site. So council resolved on the preferred option. There was this thing between 21 and 23 COVID. Things changed, the world changed, things got more expensive, property prices, construction costs. It made a big impact, obviously, on so many things, including this project. So I suppose my job, if it's your job tonight, thinking about taking those block studies and making them happen. Now, that really, just to move on to the next slide of how we might be able to do that. That sounds simple, I suppose. The problem that we face is really a gate, the gateway process that the state government kind of got in place. Also the planning proposal process. So you can't, as a council, we really couldn't take something that was developed, the 15 stories. We looked to push that forward, and the advice given to us by the state government was effectively we need to put something forward that's achievable. We couldn't push forward with something that couldn't be realised. That would, obviously a paper exercise, and we can tick the town planning boxes. That's quite straightforward, but it's also not a real thing that can be achieved. So that was a huge issue. We went through quite a few options as well, and that was reported to the elected council, who certainly made decisions in this regard. We did think about doing nothing. We thought about it's too hard. Things have changed. We've settled on 15 stories, but we wanted to just test that a little bit and understand what would be, I suppose, acceptable to put to the community and get feedback on. So there's the do nothing option. There is potentially moving forward with a paper option that may not be achieved and would not go through the state government in any case. And what is kind of the closest to where we started that we can take forward. That was a significant challenge, and that's the reality of where we were. So to understand not only things like construction costs and property costs, it's also there's a heap of requirements that the state government has in place. We do have to look very closely at things like contamination. Economic feasibility was a direction to us by the state government. Obviously, quite a smart thing to do as well, to make sure we understand what's achievable economically, what's viable. Heritage is key. Also, infrastructure, transport is key. So all those things require specialist engineers, planners to come in and do that work for council to provide recommendations on how we might be able to move forward. Now, what that ends up looking like is, if you can imagine a kind of sphere shape where one thing pulls in one direction, the other pulls in the other direction. So we had a fantastic concept. Economically, we were seeing that it wasn't something that could be moved forward in reality. We had constraints around heritage. So on the right-hand side here, we've got all heritage layers, They are heritage conservation areas, they're heritage items. You can see right along Victoria Road, there is heaps of heritage, which is very important, obviously, to people in the community. There's qualities there that we want to retain. We've been provided with recommendations on how we can balance development and heritage conservation, which have gone into the planning proposal process and development control plan. But effectively, there's a lot of things. It's not just a matter of drawing some nice pictures, which is great, but it's about considering all of these things to feed into that. So there will be, obviously, people in the community have interest in whether it's heritage or transport's obviously very critical to a lot of people. Urban design, how something looks and feels, how you move around a precinct, a place, your community. People will have interest in all kinds of things. So really looking forward to getting a broad range of input on what's important to people. For this project, this piece of work, particularly in relation to the Gladesville Village Centre, to understand how to balance that best, how to balance those different aspects. So with the planning proposal for the key site where we're looking at increasing development density, so there's a proposal for 19-storey buildings. Now what that looks like in an actual local environmental plan is up on the top right-hand side. So that's actually the planning proposal. It's not quite, you know, well, I think it's beautiful to look at, but at the end of the day, this is quite an important piece. So it talks about that that the development can go to 70 metres, it can go to a higher density, but it must be in accordance with our development control plan, and that is what is a critical part of this project. It's okay, we want to see the community has said, like, we want to see renewal of Gladesville and then the GSV site, but we want to make sure that it's within certain parameters. We want open space, connectivity. There's all of these aspects that are critical to that process based on previous feedback that we've received. So the formal parts of the planning proposal are the map on the left-hand side, which identifies the site, and top right-hand side, just an illustration there in the bottom right-hand corner of what that would look like. So this is a render. We've got a couple of renders done, one looking from Massey Street and one from Cow Street. And just to give a bit of perspective on the ground plane, so if you're a person standing on the ground, what does it look like? Just to give some ideas, to generate some conversation, some discussion about what you guys might want to see as far as this precinct, as far as how it looks and feels, because the words on the previous slide is the formal part, but how do we want it to look, how do we want it to feel?
That's the scale. No, that's 5 stories, not 19.
You're missing several stories.
So this is...
Okay, guys, you can ask the questions later on, but let Kieran do the presentation. Yeah, let's.
So these objectives on the left-hand side have been set from day one. This is what the community has said is important as far as this project. So these things have not changed from the start. These things have been carried forward. We've got all of those things that have pulled in different directions. We've got the economics, we've got the heritage, we've got the transport, we've got the urban design. We've got all those factors that feed into the process now. And also the housing that comes with that. So all of those things haven't changed, but I suppose that those things haven't changed, but the actual concept has been tested as part of the planning process. So key objectives, so once again, 2 publicly accessible open space areas of minimum sizes. We don't want those to be shrunk, we want those to be functional. So we've had an architect develop this plan with a thought to urban design of how these areas function. Connectivity from Victoria Road, pulling people into the precinct, making the area connect. Making sure that that's once again functional as well from an engineering and design perspective. And as a key, there's been a lot of feedback around the GSV site, so wanting renewal, wanting a nice place to be, a nice kind of place for the community to come, something that's that you can go and enjoy and relax, and the shopping centre is seen as a key part of this community precinct. So that's also one of the things that's been carried forward. So there are also some blocks on Massey Street that have townhouses, and
Can I ask you to move your lectern so we can actually see a lot of the information that's presented on the screen? Because a lot of the information is being hidden.
Sorry, turn the other one off, maybe. Yes.
Is that
Yeah, just right on the edge, then it'll still work. Yeah, about there.
all right? So there is some state government reforms that have happened, which mean that higher buildings and more dense development can occur in medium density residential areas in Gladesville. And that will obviously change how the area looks and feels. That was not a council process, that was taken forward by the New South Wales government. And that's kind of a reality of what we're seeing here. So
we were looking to make sure that it wasn't a jarring transition from 19-storey buildings in the key site down to 2-storey buildings up to 6-storey buildings. We wanted to see a transition. So that's why these areas were also identified for some modest change to match the surrounding residential areas.
Sorry, but why is 19 stories this and not like area?
Okay, that's the question. We'll answer that after the presentation.
But that's the frame of this entire.
Okay, and we'll answer that. So put that down as your question.
Should we haven't all read the stuff that's up there? Like you're taking this through material that's already published.
No, he's not going to do that. No.
Guys, can we will have time for questions at the end. We have our professional staff here. These guys are just here doing their job. There is no reason to shout over them. There is ample time at the end of this session for questions. So could you please, if you have questions, make sure that you address them at the end or submit them in writing to council so that we can get a fulsome answer to you. But please, these guys are just doing their job.
So the development control plan for Hunters Hill is currently under review. The development control plan I'm just about to talk about is going to be a chapter, proposed to be a chapter of that. So we spoke about guardrails, if you're getting increased density, increased height, we want to make sure that setbacks and all the other aspects of the precinct are as per community expectations, and that's why there are more detailed controls in the development control plan that will apply to this site. Now, the DCP, Development Control Plan, also extends right through that area. That map that we saw at the very start of the presentation, from Pittwater Road all the way down to the Gladesville Police Station, there are details around, once again, around setbacks, around urban street trees, pavement types, all kinds of things. So I'll just get into a little bit more detail on that in next slide. So this is effectively the precinct's been broken up. This is very similar to what's currently in the DCP. We've got the precincts, I suppose, broken up into character areas. So South Gladesville, we've got the commercial core, and we've got the quayside in the middle there. So I mentioned about all of the different aspects in the development control plan. So it's quite a lengthy document, and there's a lot in it. I suppose the purpose of tonight, one of the things we're looking to do is really to once again, take you on the journey about what's in here to hopefully make the process of reviewing the documents a little bit easier to do. So we've got, it really cascades down from priorities and character for the precinct, down into where the special areas are, into the movement network, how people get around, the street hierarchy. I won't go through all this. Things like conservation. There are a heap of controls for the key sites. So we see that there is, with increased potential for development, there needs to be more control about how that looks and how it functions for the community. So quite a bit of detail, but still critical in obviously guiding how things are realised. So just some, I suppose, some key takeouts from the DCP. So desired character, green, engaging, social, any feedback on this development control plan, obviously very welcome. If there's any other ideas about what the desired character should be, if there needs to be changes. So we, I suppose, key development priorities, green and lively commercial centre, new open space network. We want to see, once again, people be able to move through the area. We want to be able to see it more functional in how it works. Enhanced public domain. How does it look? How does it feel? How does it feel as part of the community? We want it to be a harbour, a heart, if you like, of the area. Improve pedestrian amenity, once again, street trees, more appealing kind of infrastructure, public infrastructure. Enhanced connectivity, we already obviously mentioned that. Heritage, just another one of those factors that pushes and pulls. Obviously making sure that important heritage qualities of the area are identified and protected. So I'll just jump on transport and parking. Obviously, quite critical. There is, I suppose there's a bit of a philosophical shift that has been happening for some time around active transport and benefits of active transport, walking, cycling. Certainly public transport is quite an efficient way to get around, and it's such a real constraint for this area. So it's really been a balance of making sure that there is provision for parking, that people are not put out, I suppose, by increased development that sucks the parking out of the local area. So just using kind of broad basic terms here, but it's been about making sure that there is sufficient parking provided with development, but that we're also encouraging a move to active and public transport on weekends. So that would be achieved through things like improvements in bus infrastructure, working with the New South Wales Government, Transport for New South Wales, to improve bus services, making sure that all development that generates a lot of new traffic considers walking, end-of-trip facilities, cycling, is infrastructure available as part of the development to accommodate that. It's certainly something that we want that thought process to happen, to create a more livable and connected community, and certainly a stronger precinct in that regard. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the increased development puts an increased demand. I mean, that's obvious for services and infrastructure. So at the same time as doing the planning proposal work and the development control plan work, we're also looking at parks and open space. This is a gorgeous spot here, obviously, but looking at what facilities are available to the current community, what needs to be improved. Things like, once again, public transport is going to be absolutely key. So all of the findings that are coming out of all of this work are feeding into that infrastructure investigation, getting an idea of what's required, how much it costs, and making sure that the money can come through for those services and infrastructure. So as far as the indicative timeframe, obviously consultation on this is open until the 24th of April. We're intending to report to Council the 22nd of June now. Keep in mind that there is a stack of consultation happening on this. There's community consultation, there is consultation with City of Ryde, certainly the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure, utilities, the list goes on. So we're engaging quite broadly. We're going to get a lot of feedback, and obviously everybody's kind of ideas need to be taken into account for this to be a really rich and community-focused process. So there is a lot of work to do, but that's what we're aiming for. It's quite aspirational, but that's our current target, with the process to be finalised towards the end of this year, so around October. We're thinking the process will be done. Now that is subject to Council considering all of the feedback that's received, making any amendments to the planning proposal. Ultimately, if it can't go forward, that's the case, but there is, once again, a stack of information that needs to be collected, taken into account, and for the right decisions to be made based on that. So once again, the documentation is quite substantial. Obviously the purpose of tonight is to try and break it down a bit so that everybody can have an opportunity to hopefully understand in a bit more detail what's proposed, and to go to those key areas. If there's something that you're particularly passionate about, to be able to kind of focus in on that and to provide Council with that feedback. So that concludes the presentation, and I do believe we're going to get into some questions and answers.
We can just read off that. Yeah, I think that might be quicker. Easier. So we've got lots of questions, and Kieran, you might want to grab, and I might want to, maybe you take that one. You take that, and I'll use this one. If that's okay. And I might. Oops, what have I done? Well, I've done something. I need some technical skills back up here. All right, so look, we'll go through these. Has anyone got any written questions that they'd like to submit? If they have, just put up your hand, and one of the staff will come and grab them off you. I've got my long glasses on, so I can't see anything. Yep, okay, we'll come and grab one off you over there. So, you don't want to do this? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So the first question was why the graphics on the flyers presenting the plans presenting the plan as only having 4 stories. They were just to show the ground plane and how the public domain would work. Yes, it's 19 stories, we don't walk away from that. Next question is what guarantees or assurances have been given to the developers that I approved by the council or New South Wales state government that this development will be approved? None. It has to be assessed by council, it has to go to the local planning panel for their either agreement or non-agreement, and then it still has to go back to the department of planning for their approval as well. So there's no undertaking to give to anyone. Why is Huntersville Council concentrating the supply of their total housing targets within within this precinct, specific area of Gladesville? This site actually has development potential, and it's always had a quite a high FSR and potential for apartments. The council led this planning proposal, so it's trying to achieve the 4 good community outcomes, being the ground plane and the open space and the things that previous planning proposals weren't provided for.
Yeah, good community outcomes by keeping the peninsula nice and pristine and not infill there.
Thank you. Thank you. I've heard that. And please put that into your submissions.
Sorry, can you slow down a bit? You're reading through them really fast.
Sorry, I just had a lot of questions, so I'll slow down.
You're just reading
I apologise.
through them.
This one might be for you, Kieran.
Sorry, so just remind me.
Thanks, Nick. Would you like me to read the question?
Because I think it was in the money.
Okay, how do you explain the overshadowing this development will have a Gladesville public school playground? According to the plan, there will be no sunlight in their main playground all morning.
Kieran, I want you to cover that one off, but I don't think it's every day of the year.
So the overshadowing assessment, it's without getting too technical, there's attachment 7 of the planning proposal assesses overshadowing, in addition to work that's already been done in that document. So we've looked to minimise overshadowing impacts, not just at public school, also the Trim Place and the open space areas within the precinct itself, to make sure that it's functional somewhere that people want to be. So as far as overshadowing impacts, they're assessed based on the winter solstice at certain times, and we've once again looked to, through the shape of the buildings and the urban form, things like how wide the buildings are, where we're looking to minimise impacts. So at this stage, it appears that overshadowing occurs quite early in the morning during the winter solstice.
Yeah,
Cold winter morning,
so at peak time, when the kids are out in the playground, they arrive at school, the doors open at 8:40. You would know this, you're very aware, but if the classes don't start until 9:10, there is half an hour where the children are required to be in that space because it is the sole supervised space that leads to the classrooms. And in the peak of winter, when it's freezing cold, there would be not a dot of sunlight until closer to 10 o'clock. How can that be justified as a good use of public space?
So there's, going back to I suppose, the sphere of different pulling factors, there is certainly an option to decrease the height of buildings. Make them larger in footprint, which would take away the open space. And this is just a town planning Now, so there's quite a few factors involved, but if we could have that in submissions, that would be fantastic, because this is all really important feedback from the ground, from people who experience these spaces every day. We need that feedback to feed into this process.
It's okay, because the school's overshadowed, but the mansion's on the peninsula.
Children for hundreds of years to come.
What thought has council given to infill across the LGA as a means to meet state density targets with multiple medium density sites instead of one large single site?
Well, firstly, you've got the LMR site cameras imposed on us, which will clearly deal with that in the around place or the Boronia Park area. We're about to embark on a town centre study for Gladesville Village, which will look at uplift in those areas. And when you come down to the Woolwich area, the issues around the heritage items are very difficult to allow additional development in those areas. We've got the Montefiore site that's looking for a major increase in its FSO at the moment. So this is not an isolated site, where there's a number of sites we're working on at the moment. As I say, a lot of the state government legislation is overriding us as well.
What is being done to address the lack of public transport for the area, particularly from Victoria Road, with its excessive addition of apartments in an area that is already over capacity?
Yep, so that's something we've been working with the Department of Transport with. We're doing some lobbying. They've got a review happening at the moment that will come out shortly for comment, and we'll be making submissions into that review. So yeah, we're well aware of that is an issue, and we know that there has been some promises on buses that we haven't yet seen and delivered, but we're making sure that we push as hard as we can for that.
And just on that, just the bus stop interface on Victoria Road at the corner opposite the Bayview, like, come on. So unless that's incorporated into a proper turn-in or such, this is just like that.
Is that on the opposite side of the road?
No, on this.
Yeah, no, this side of the road, that's part of, we're definitely pushing back and looking for that sort
So
of
is
impact.
it just an increase of buses is the plan? Is that the plan?
Only on the metro.
Well, I'm just wondering, because there's this site and there's about 6 other sites within a kilometre of Victoria Road. So it's not just this site that we're looking at in terms of transport.
So it all has to go to the picture of transport, yeah.
So what is the plan? Like when you say you're communicating with the Department of Transport, what are you communicating?
Well, we're asking for more buses and more options.
So we just queue longer lorries.
No, hopefully, won't be longer lines, it'll be more buses.
Victoria Road's already dead, so how's that going to work?
Well, we've got a bus lane.
What is there buses that sit in gridlock traffic anyway? I mean, we do not have a metro station that's able to move the mass numbers that are coming in.
Well, we've got the option to put that in your submissions, and we'll take that on board, but we'll do the traffic studies and so forth. Look, the other question, we do ask you to put it through the next or write them down for us. It's a lot easier for us, and we can get through it quicker.
This is just a comment. I just
No, please, we just have 2 questions first. No, we've got any questions at the moment, and the main comments will go through the questions.
So related to the transport.
Your answers, can I just ask for the clarity of everyone in the room that when you use acronyms that you explain what those acronyms are?
I have no idea.
We don't understand that.
So what acronym did you understand?
You said
LMR, sorry, I thought everyone was aware of that.
I think you said MSR or something before. So
Low medium rise housing and transport for New South Wales. I think there's 2 DCP,
Ratio, FSA.
floor space ratio.
It's fitting more apartments into a smaller space.
so please, just explain your acronyms.
Alright, Sally, next question.
No, well, sorry, just
Sally, next question.
So,
clarification on the transport. Can I just have a clarification? Related to the transport, how does this fit into the transport-oriented development program?
Doesn't.
It doesn't, thank you.
No.
Okay. It doesn't fit.
It's not a top site. Transport oriented development site. It's not one of those sites.
Because it doesn't have transport that is suitable for medium and high density accommodation. That's why we only have buses.
I can say it's a single site, and it's not like a whole transport, a top area. Because that's-
I agree.
So we're only doing one development, but we're not doing a whole town
That's
centre.
right, it's not a transport hub.
Okay, so let's
Okay.
try and keep going.
There's a lot of transport questions here, so if we could address those, but, why is there no green space being considered? It now looks to be Coles, retail, but less and supersized apartment blocks with no infrastructure to support it.
Well, there's definitely 2 parks involved in the area, and then a lot of green space in those, so I don't think that's, I think when you see the detail, there's 3,500 square metres of open space, 800 and 900 square metre park, so I think they're, they'll be embellished and equipment and things like that in there, so, I think there's certainly some parks there.
Can I just ask a clarification? Can I just ask how, I'm just really interested to understand how you expect the community to provide feedback on this development in absence of a cemented transport plan? Like, how do we give our feedback when we don't know, and you don't know, nobody knows?
Your feedback is that we need that.
But we're expected to put in your
Well, I can't, that's pushing through, I just want to give us all that feedback, that maybe thinks that we have to go away and do more work on before we can actually, assess the application. So, did you want to?
Why can't you limit it to 10 stories?
Okay, so you could limit it to 10 stories, but it would be a very, very bulky and wide building that would overshadow a lot more, wouldn't provide for the open space. We want the 3,500 square metres, we want, the community told us we want a community space, we want a town centre. You can't have that without behind.
Who's mandating slightly one storage?
No one's mandating 500, it's a floor space ratio that gets, and that allows a developer, through the economics that we've done, to be able to provide all that space, that retail, and that's the quantum of residential that needs to go with it to make the thing work, otherwise it just won't get built.
Also, housing increase exponentially.
Housing prices.
What portion of the building has been led to affordable housing?
No.
Because you spoke about the housing prices. Yeah, well, you mentioned the housing prices. What
Yeah,
portion?
500 apartments, we haven't developed.
Okay, guys, can we just, I'll just throw in the questions, you can have the arguments out the back.
So there is a question here about affordable housing. So did council consider the New South Wales Government affordable housing incentive scheme that offers developers 30% bonus FSR and height on top of what ends up in the LEP when developing the proposal?
So we haven't allowed for that 30% bonus. If the developer comes to us, they have to prove to us how that can work. I don't think we can, given the viability of the site.
Considering that Gladesville precinct straddles 2 LGAs, Ryde and Huntersville, are Huntersville Council working actively with Ryde Council to ensure a traffic master plan and retail master plan are undertaken?
We're not doing a retail master plan with Ryde Council. We've consulted with them and waiting on them to come back with any comments. And we all work on traffic together through the next rock route, making sure that we have strategies. Now, sorry, that's right, Northern Sydney Regional Organisation of Councils, which is about 7 Northern Sydney councils that get together and advocate for transport options and improvements in that area. So yes, we do work together on those types of things.
The developer purchased the land for $90 million. What confidence were they given by council to commit that capital prior to the planning proposal to increase the FSR 16?
No.
If this is to be approved, what timeline of construction are we looking at? And then what mitigation for our current shopping centre, which essentially is the only one that serves our community?
That's something we have to take up in development applications submitted, because I can't do the development timeline. They may want to stage it, they may not want to stage it, they want to do it all in one go. So it's not something I can answer, but that would certainly something the development applications lodged by Third Eye, if they end up being the developer of the site. That's a question you can certainly answer them.
What social outcomes will be attributed to this project? Would it be considered a New South Wales Government project under Infrastructure Skills Legacy Program? What's community give back for something this size?
But we're working very hard to get a voluntary planning agreement through this process to contribute funds to provide us all our cultural and infrastructure needs for our community. So that we should be successful with that. That will deliver a lot of things that the community's been asking us to do around libraries and open space. So it's certainly a substantial voluntary planning agreement, and that's with a financial sum attached to it that we will bring to the council and show where it needs to be spent and take that out to the community as well.
This is different questions, but I'll join them together. The council doesn't look after the paths, garden maintenance now. How do you propose you manage such an increase in the management of this? And the subsequent question, what will the rate increase be to bring and maintain this in Gladesville?
Well, we're not at this stage accepting the open space. We believe it should be part of the development and maintained as part of that development. So, but if there was to be council to take on responsibility, then we'd be looking for a cash contribution to be able to do that going forward. So that's our position. I hope I'm working very hard to put money back into the outdoor activities of council at the moment. And I believe there's been some improvements in our streetscape over the last 6 months. It's another 12 months, I think you'll find that we're starting to do a much better job. I think you'll be a lot happier with the maintenance levels on our parks.
Are you actually going to take the community feedback, or do the state reforms mean we have no say?
No, we have to take the feedback, we have to document it in our reports, and it has to be put before the local planning panel who will have to consider it.
Sorry, can I add to that? Because you took the feedback back in 2021, council undertook to the community to take on board that feedback, which was at the time, these are too tall.
Right.
And now you've come back to us with something even taller.
Correct. Because we went through the feedback, and it's not viable, and if you want to deliver the other things, you need the height and the floor space. I don't argue with you, that's the truth. Next question.
So what was the applause drowned out your response at the beginning? I just didn't quite hear what your response was.
My response was, it was considered,
Yes.
but it doesn't stack up commercially, it won't happen, it means you won't get all the other things like your open space and all the connectivity and the things you want on that side as a community without the height in the FSA.
So that's not true, because Woolworths have a
Woolworths have a completely different site. Woolworths don't have to demolish the shopping centre. Woolworths don't have to do 3,500 square metres of open space. Completely different site. Much more viable, much easier to get off the ground. This is completely different. You cannot compare it to Woolworths site.
No, but we can all go and shop at the new Woolworths, and we'll have a nice shopping centre there, and just leave the whole.
Well, that could be your interim solution.
Well, it's how it's a houses, 19-story units. I think that people in this room here to tell you, we would rather not have this community space.
And all happy to have that solution.
Well, I certainly will be.
Yeah, and that's why we're providing the information tonight.
We'll be so crowded and full of the people that live in the 555 units above, that it's not going to be an enjoyable community space anyway, and none of us will be able to get anywhere near it to park, because we won't use it.
Okay, Charlie, next question.
Can council please make a public undertaking to remove and stop using the current artist impression concerning imagery communication?
Happy to put more artist impressions in the behind.
I think we've done a lot of these. What's the car park to apartment ratio? Where do you expect the overflow cars to park?
You know the ratios?
Yep.
Should know that.
So the ratios in the current development control plan will apply to this site also. So we're once again looking to move more towards public and active transport. So we'll be looking for the lower end of the development control area. Yeah, there's also some initiatives around car sharing, around that is seen as a way to allow for parking and also allow for improved public and active transport.
What's the number? How many cars per apartment?
if we say one park for a studio or one bedroom apartment, that's in the DCP currently, so that's on public exhibition along with.
So in reality, where are the cars that these people who buy the 500 apartments saying they all can have 1 or 2 cars? Where are they going to park their cars?
Outside my house.
In the car park, there's one per unit, so at least, and then when you get up to 2 or 3, you'll have more. So I think there's like, I think total car parking with the retail
So
is
how
over 1,500.
low is it going? How deep is
Well, that'll be up to the development application. We're not designing this building, we're just coming up with the whole scale of floor space. And the things that we want to make sure are included in the development application loss. Just remember, this is not a development application, it's a rezoning.
And with the transport or what you're saying about communal cars and things, does that include bikes that are now going to be like left around everywhere? We don't, like ride-share bikes that are sort of just dumped everywhere.
But we haven't got them yet. We don't because they dump everywhere. But that's a state legislation, so we'll struggle to control that. But we will make. There's a lot of representation going to state government at the moment on how those ride shares operate, because there are issues. We all know there's issues in the city and places like that. And, comes on corners of pedestrian areas and stuff. So we would be making representations on them. Sally.
Can I just follow on from the parking question? I think from what I've read for the residential, there's 1 car space for a 1 bedroom, there's 1.2 for a 2 bedroom, and there's 1.6 for a 3 bedroom. I think overall there's something like 900 parking spaces for 522 apartments. But there is also a move to reduce the number of visitors from 4.1 to 10.1, I think, so a big reduction in visitor parking. And there's also talk about bundling to also reduce available parking. And there's also an assumption that the overflow will go into the shopping centre. And I guess that is going to be impacted by whether the parking in the shopping centre is free or charged, because no one's going to park to visit their friend in a car park.
Okay, thanks for the comment. Sally?
Can I ask one more parking question?
Can you pop up in the system for us? We've already got 51 questions to answer.
Directly connected, which is just that, assuming that that's roughly the number of parking places we go into a building like this or these buildings, would the council, if it's something that needs to do with the council, would it be expected that the council would introduce resident parking in the surrounding streets? Because it's something that is in your control, unlike a lot of the other questions which I appreciate and want.
That's something we could look at, yes. There's a lot of control, a lot of hurdles to get through. I mean, you've got parking and you've got driveways and parking and so forth. You've got to use them first. Some of the biggest issues in Sydney with parking is that people in the garages full of other stuff. And so they can't park in them. And I'm probably one of those offenders. So definitely we can look at a parking scheme if that was required down the track. But there are a lot of hurdles to make it work, and it tends to be more for areas that don't have on off-site parking at all.
Massey Street's already full at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And we've been asking for resident parking for about 3 years now.
Okay. We'll take that on board. I'll undertake that with the Massey Street.
I will just add that residential parking schemes are very difficult. Police are a central authority. Police don't like residential parking schemes. I've only ever seen to get a cent in sort of 14 years of council, but certainly we've made an effort and put your feedback in about residential parking schemes and the like, but we've made an effort to make sure that that isolation of the site from traffic from the local area, so particularly going up Cow Street to that intersection, and then when it goes back via Junction Street, it's still the same treatment, so that we're anticipating most of the traffic flow in and out of the site comes off Victoria Road and then is forced back onto Victoria Road, so that the impact on local streets is lessened. But make sure you produce that feedback, send it to us. That's all forms that you what we need to do in terms of traffic.
Is it true to say that with the previous plan, what I read at the time was that one of the issues was the traffic getting back out to Victoria Road, and that potentially causing additional traffic jams on Victoria Road, which is a huge issue for much of the city, not just us. Is that still an issue?
The main issue in the last iteration was actually getting traffic into the site from Victoria Road, so it's really not, it's sort of more the developer's problem than it is council and RS's problem, because they haven't spent the requisite money on upgrading the road. So obviously, and your feedback is welcome tonight, but a lot of these issues are state government transport issues, so when they rip up bus services off us, and you can't get, I'm one of them, I get the 500X on Victoria Road. I live in Gladesville. I am stuck with buses doing parts all the time. So a lot of these issues straddle a lot of different departments. They're referral authorities, so all these developments along Victoria Road have to go to the various departments for their commentary. So you'd hope that there is some semblance of order in what they're trying to do and where they're trying to put their funding as state government. But again,
Sorry, didn't intend this to be a council thing. You'd hope that they're going to have some overarching master plan. We're certainly pushing, particularly on transport, because we aren't very well serviced in Huddersfield. We have ferries, we have bus services. We're not going to get a metro in a hurry. They're talking about investigations on the B line, which I welcome, but unless we see rubber on road, literally, it's a problem. And they have stuffed up the West Connect Stage 3B interchange to the point where it is almost impossible for anyone commuting in a car, let alone a bus, to get anywhere within of the city in the peak hour. So the bus lane goes all the way to Balmain. That's sort of sacrosanct to them, but they've converted a situation where we're going into West Connects and Victoria Road becomes one lane. These are all issues that are sort of not related to this proposal, but they're not consent authorities, but referral authorities. So you'd hope that the feedback you give actually can be fed up to the state government.
So how related to the proposal, and you've just given thank you very much for that, because that's just given a very good reason why we should question this to the very because of what you just outlined, in terms of your difficulty in getting out to a bus on Victoria Road as it stands without fibre.
It does, and as the gentleman before said, it doesn't make the housing prices go up. And so we've been mandated these targets by state government, and we have had these overlays. So council is in some respects stuck between a rock and a hard place.
To come back to us, we'll meet with them and chat.
Sorry, that sounds quite passive. So
Well,
it'd be wonderful, because at the moment what we're facing is Victoria Road with all these disparate shopping centres all along, with the Woolies one being developed opposite our lane between the police. Further down there's the Aldi. Across the road there's the old sawmill. Down on Tedderson Road there's going to be developments. So are we going to have a shopping centre in each and every single one of these developments? It would make sense for both councils to actually be proactive and have a grand plan for the whole of Gladesville.
okay.
Please.
Take that on. Yep.
So probably building on that somewhat, has council already received applications from LMR development in the streets surrounding the site?
We have one at the moment, 14 to 16 Venus Street. That's currently on exhibition, and before and already lodged in the land environment court. So we're working through the issues associated with that, and that will go through to the local planning panel probably within the next six weeks with some recommendations from the staff. We haven't got to a point on that yet, and but we've obviously got your feedback on that, and we're going through that at the moment with the staff that are working on it.
How many specialty stores will there be? Which type of retail are being prioritised? Food, health, pharmacy, optometrists, etc. Will current tenants be given preference?
I can't answer that. That's a question for third. I think you need to ask them. But there's certainly a mix of sizes, and obviously there's the minimum large box supermarket Coles to go back in, but there's still another 1,500 square metres of at least 1,500 square metres of retail space that we can line up into fresh food,
bakeries, coffee shops, those things, the things that make those shopping centres work.
How will vibrant nightlife in this proposal be supported in regards to facilitating licences or small venues such as wine bars and potential for live music and outdoor dining in this proposal?
Well, we hope that most of this will be dealt with through the development application, but there's also recent reforms through the state government on special entertainment precincts. That's something that we're still to review and have a look at, but certainly, we would be looking to make sure that the acoustics are right and so forth, so that you can have like openings and stuff there, and it doesn't affect the residents around, and obviously the residents above, because you're causing grief for those, you're going to cause grief for the retailers to be able to keep open. But we would be trying to facilitate that as much as possible.
What does a finalised process for October 2026 mean?
It means a rezoning and a gazettal that actually sets out what can and can't be built on site based on all the things that Kieran mentioned tonight. Then it's always subject to a development application as to whether they get approval for what they're lodging within those rezoning requirements.
Can I ask questions on that? Do you believe that this plan is in line with what you believe the developer wants to do? Like do we...
We're taking the best advice from independent people to try and come up with something that's actually will be able to be developed. So we get what needs to happen on that site on the ground plan. Whether the developer can do it, it's up to the developer. I mean, they're the ones that put their money on the line, and I'll try and make it work.
Didn't the feasibility study have a lower FSR than you looked at?
No, I think that was the issue. The lower FSR didn't make a profit for the developer, and didn't allow us to be able to knock down the shopping centre and cover all those additional costs. So you've got to remember, the shopping centre's got an income stream now, and so you've got to give that up. That's a cost of the development. But those are all the things we have to consider as part of this rezoning, because it has to be able to happen.
In that economic feasibility study are very outdated.
Well, happy for you to make a comment on that, and I'll review them.
Just going back to that last point too about the developer, on their website in July last year, they talked about working closely with council at that stage on this project, and the mayor was on Triple R radio with the developer, spruiking this project coming. Why was council working with the developer and not with the community who they are supposed to work with?
Well, I think it's important to that's why we're here tonight. Yes, we're
last year, not now.
Yeah, and that was just to give them an update on where we're at with the rezoning process.
It sounded like they were giving you an update.
No, they were giving them an
This
update.
process well precedes the developer purchasing of the asset. This is a...
You promised to work with the community back in 2021.
This process has been going on for almost 7 years now, and it well precedes the and it was largely because the applications that we were receiving at council were so bereft of any community facilities, any public open space, any soil planting, anything that would constitute a benefit to the community, that we decided to, as council, take the step to do a master plan for the... No, we have consulted. We've gone through 3 iterations of public consultations, and now we're going through another iteration, and we're seeking your feedback. As we did 3 times before. So this is a very public process where we're collating your feedback, and we want it genuinely to be written down and submitted so that we can consider it fully, and the Department of Planning will have to do the same.
This was a massive change to the previous master plan that should have been sent to the community before you sent it to Gateway.
Last minute, let's concentrate on questions, thank you. Sally, how are we going?
So there's a lot of transport, as I mentioned, but why weren't all the lots included in the planning proposal?
Because a lot of the owners wanting to hold on to their sites and have their own DAs approved already, and they're, if they're not going to play the game, or you can't, they're not going to come in and be part of the deal. It's too hard to make it happen. So we're trying to make what can happen, and it's up to them. They can also come to us with their proposals during this time, and we work through it with them.
Are these DA approvals for more apartments?
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Very seriously, but they're on the Victoria Road frontage.
For more apartments?
So this might be, I think it's probably been answered, but will you consider entering into a voluntary planning agreement with the successful developer to deliver a community facility, open space, improved roads and infrastructure?
Yes, and that's exactly what we're trying to negotiate now.
Okay, I think we've answered a lot of these construction noise and disruptions. How have they been taken into consideration?
They haven't, because this is not a development application or construction certificate. This is just a master plan. That would all be part of the development application. They have to have a construction management plan, a noise plan, and all the things that every other developer, every other builder has to put together.
Final for you, can you guarantee that 19 is the maximum?
9 is what's going on exhibition. What comes back from everyone and what comes back from the developer, I don't know. We don't know what the department will want to do. That's our position at the moment, 19. That's what we're asking for comments on.
Can I ask, assuming the 19 stories goes through and it's built, what stops another development from putting in something larger? I think roads, you've got a really nice photo of 2013 of roads, Walker Street, with one 19-story apartment, and now that corridor is 48 stories plus, and every lot is.
That's quite a different precinct.
But is that, I mean, that's something I think genuinely.
Yeah, I understand it.
It sets a precedent that we cannot reverse.
But as we mentioned earlier tonight, the surrounding properties have been come under the low mid-rise housing policy. So that gives that a cap, because you have to do it within their controls.
But this is what we have right now, we're proposing to change the cap, so what's to stop that from?
Well, nothing stops it, and that's progress, or not progress that people like. We can't guarantee it. Anyone could go back to the government on a piece of land with a planning proposal, we would reject it, and they could get, and the state government could approve it. We can't stop that. So why we've led this council-led proposal is to try and get things that we, as much as what we possibly want on the site, so that the community gets what they want. If we left it up to the developer, it'd be like the previous planning proposal, which was a very bulky building, no open space, probably was overshadowed the open space. So what we're trying to do is improve all those things through council leading the planning proposal, the rezone proposal, but there's nothing to stop the guy or anyone else who buys the site going doing their own planning proposal and coming up with something bigger and bulkier. And we could say no, that doesn't mean the state government couldn't say yes. I can't, there's all these appeal processes that they have, and you talk about roads. I mean, roads is a transport orientated site, and there's lots of reasons why that's gone up in the height. But I say there's a lot more controls around place to stop that happening in a major way.
Nick, just clarify something you just said. You said the open space is part of the planning proposal. My understanding is we've actually taken that out of the LEP controls. It's now this generic, referred to DCP. Is that the case that the open space is not part of the LEP controls? It's just the DCP?
I might get here and clarify that.
So the LEP, Local Environmental Plan, the main planning document that we were talking about during the presentation. So the change that we're proposing to put in refers directly to the development control plan. So the development control plan needs to be addressed. I apologise if that's going to be complicated, but yes, the open space is part of the planning controls. The quantity of open space, overshadowing, connectivity is all in the planning proposal. So all of those details are in there. We were challenged by the state government on being too detailed, wanting to make it more flexible, but we were very certain that there were certain aspects of this that needed to be delivered, that were very clear to council, and those have been captured within these planning documents.
But the DCP is not enforceable.
It's through the LEP, isn't it?
Through the LEP, that's the one.
Your clause in the LEP says it needs to adequately address what's in the DCP. What does that adequately mean? And the DCP is inadequate in some ways to start with. So where are the safety rails? Not having those things specifically in the LEP.
Well, we fought very hard with the Department of Planning to make sure that's in so we get that control. They didn't want that in there, and I believe it's strong enough for us to be able to get more in there. There we go, Sally. Any last questions?
Last two from the board. Under the LMR reforms, what is the maximum height, and are there any examples of high quality, high rise under Huntersville Council?
I don't think I can answer the second question, but the LMR here it's 6 stories, but there's options to go to 8 in some areas. I think Kieran might be able to clarify that a little bit better than I can.
Yeah, so the 22 metres that was in the presentation is what's in the, so we're talking about the residential zone areas within 800 metres of the Gladesville town centre. So those are capped with the 22 metres and the floor space ratio, so how bulky the building is on the lot. So there's those controls, and just something to keep an eye on as well is the development control plan and some of the initiatives that we're looking at to once again steer that type of development towards something that the community wants to see. Within our constraints, we obviously can't control the state government reforms, but we can certainly do what we can as a community to make sure the planning controls are as strong as they can be.
Yep.
Yes, I just wanted to raise the topic of heritage. It was briefly addressed at the beginning of your presentation about heritage and the heritage on the site. So I was wondering if you could just tell us what your latest thinking is on the fate of the cottage in Cow Street, which we've been trying to protect for a long time now.
So the cottage on Cow Street is really limiting to what can be achieved as far as renewal of the key site. So it would be impacted by that key site proposal. I would encourage, I mean, this is great feedback, any specific feedback about heritage items or character qualities of certain areas. If you think it hasn't been addressed or if there needs to be more done, really happy with that feedback.
Okay. Sorry, just procedural, one last thing. So councillors will vote on pushing the plan forward after public exhibition, and then who's the final authority on the gateway determination?
No, it goes, my understanding, just correct me if I'm wrong, Kieran, but it goes to our local planning panel as a report from the council officers, and they either refer it back to the Department of Planning with approval, maybe changes, or they reject it, and then it's up to the Department of Planning to approve it and get the changes.
Just a slight refinement on that. So it's been to the local planning panel, and the next step would be to get everybody's feedback to the council staff to make recommendations to the elected council on ways to move forward. They could include to move forward with what's exhibited, to change what's been exhibited, or to not move forward with the project. In basic broad terms, those are kind of the options that would be available to the elected council through a council meeting. The ultimate approval authority is the state government. They set the rules, the processes, the procedures that we need to comply with as part of that process, and they ultimately will approve it if it gets to that stage.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions and then we'll wrap up.
I'm just wondering, there seems to be a huge community sentiment that they're happy with development, and obviously the site is a problem. However, the stories
are the issue, the overshadowing is the issue. And you did mention that it could potentially still go ahead, it'd just be more bulky and not have all the amenities that you're also saying that the community would like. I'm just wondering, would you be able to put it to everyone? If they would prefer that over the height, if they would prefer to have less amenities or less open space.
Well, that's the comments we might need to get back to us.
So would you be open to hearing that? Is that something
Well,
that
there's some issues you guys have made, and we will address.
because you've got to be sensitive to the fact that, wherever you land with this thing, the people who are around it, it's upsetting for a lot of people. And I think you just need to be sensitive to the fact that it's impacting people's homes, it's impacting the money they have in their house and the value of their properties, it's impacting their solar access, it's impacting the views out of their house. And I think that really maybe putting forward the option, if it can be done as a lower thing. I mean, the school is just unbelievable that it would overshadow the school forever. That can't be undone, things like that. That site is, it's a great school site, it's huge, but that playground is their main playground. And I just think that perhaps if you could say that you would be open to reducing
We're open to solutions, so you need to
and
put
making
those
sure
to us.
everyone who is open to not having as many amenities in there, could put that in the submissions.
Yep. Okay. 1, 2, then through.
So I've looked at this and there's two things that I don't understand. So number one is how easily are cars going to be able to move from Howe Street to Massey Street? So I live on the bottom end of Howe, and I want to go to Pittwater and go via Flagstaff onto Massey. And at the moment, it's going to be a shared pathway like what's in the canopy. Is that what I understand?
Not a Flagstaff, no. No, the shed is in the.
It's in the centre. So Flagstaff is still going to.
Oh, still right, yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully widen and make that, yeah, sorry.
And the second part of that as well is there any shadowing on that, on the other side? So we've seen the shadowing on the school, but is there any shadowing of the western side?
Let's have a look at the end of the meeting, we'll have to take it through it. Yeah.
So there's a picture here that shows the 19-storey buildings with the 4-storey podiums. It's got some indicative open space as well. Obviously, it's it doesn't have all the little details, but it's got overshadowing in this diagram within that area. So that's something to look at. These plans are quite detailed, but there is some explanation as well around what's on them in relation to heights, overshadowing, key areas of the site. So I definitely encourage you to.
I have looked through these and I haven't, other than that one single shot of what overshadowing looks like over that whole residential sector, I can't see anything else. I've put in a DA, I've had to provide extensive amounts of shadowing. And so surely this is something that should be provided before we could make a decision.
Yeah, so attachment 7 of the planning proposal on Council's website has an assessment of overshadowing, in addition to overshadowing assessment that's in the master plan, which is attachment 1. So that's effectively, if you go onto the website, it's got each of the attachments. You'll see attachment 1 is the master plan, attachment 7 is overshadowing, with lots of details on what that looks like, and inviting submissions obviously on that.
Maybe that you talk to Kieran afterwards and get to the full specifics.
I'm only saying it from one side as well.
Thank you. I've got one question up the back.
Thank you. Sorry, my mental question is maybe, but very prominent in your presentation is the Gladesville Masterplan, and you've referred extensively to the viability of the site. Are you able to please confirm when the masterplan will be finished and how it will be factored into your assessment of this key site proposal? And secondly, can you share Council's analysis of the viability calculations for this site so we can understand what assumptions you're looking at in forming that conclusion?
It's in the documentation that you said the question. I just need to clarify the first question, I just didn't quite hear you.
Yeah, my understanding is the master plan is unfinished, and without it, it's hard to assess how well this site proposal actually measures up. Can you confirm where it will be finished and how we build it into the consideration of this proposal?
I think it's finished once we get all the comments back and we look at what needs to be incorporated. And then I suppose we can put it back out on our website. But I mean, this is the master plan at the moment. What we don't have is a development application, which is a completely different thing. And that will give you the fine grain of what's going to happen on the site.
The draft master plan is attachment 1 of the planning proposal, so that's on our website. And well, it's not complete until the elected council standard goes through the state government, but that is the completed master plan in its current form. Yes, absolutely. Yes, and testing my memory now of all of the different attachments and numbers of all of the documents, but the economic assessment is also part of those documents, so it's one of the attachments and it's economic assessment, it sits on the website as well. So.
I just really quickly, Flagstaff, is that all 6-storey potentially up there? So, I mean, there is a bit of shared benefit. We're just wondering, because we're talking about the negative impacts, is there potential positive impact for people in Flagstaff Street to go 6-storey?
That would be a owner by owner decision. So
it's ready to go.
The state government changes to the legislation have already happened. So that's already possible. But I would just say it would need to be looked at on a site-by-site basis. Obviously, we could
probably maybe look at how heritage may or may not constrain it. If it doesn't constrain this, maybe we quick broke road and they can get a free kick at it.
Yeah, and that's the legislation's there, and you just need to look at your lot sizes and get some good planning advice. All right, sorry, one more. What's the gentleman over there? Sorry, Mr.
With that graphic, was that supplied by Third Eye? Or is it
no, we got that off our.
There's a very good graphic on the Third Eye website which shows an aerial view of the development. And if you're saying that what they're proposing is tall and slim, it does not look like that on their website. The blocks look massive and they're very close together. And that's on the Third Eye's website.
Well, that's their website on ours.
Yeah, but that's what they're saying.
Yeah, no, I get that, and they'll have to lodge a development application with you, so.
Yeah, because I think the broader community sees that's the graphic that everyone's pushing, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they see, it doesn't great.
Well, thank you. One last question up the back.
I'll just finish off.
Sorry.
So when you said you understand that there was concerns about that graphic, and you said, yeah, we can look into that.
Yeah.
When will that change? Before the 24th of April?
It hasn't changed by Friday.
By Friday?
Yeah. Sorry, Kieran, there's a lot to do more. So, gentleman at the back, sorry.
So my question is, as a resident of Rye in Gladesville, and you've mentioned a couple of times this development is going to be great, there's going to be a lot of available funds to reinvest into the community. We talked about the library. What I feel a lot of the community is feeling is that we're basically affecting 10% of the Hunters Hill LGA, not to mention the Rye LGA that is at least 50-60% bordering on this area. And you've spoken a few times about, we're going to reinvest. And I asked the question, didn't come up Minty, but from what I'm hearing, you're going to generate all this revenue. This is going to be food and funds for the council. But then that money is not going to be dedicated back to that area. It's going to be spread out into the other area that will benefit from the revenue raised from a development that impacts 10% of your community. And that funds are going to go to 90% that aren't impacted. And if anything, they will benefit on the basis that you have now hit your housing targets without having to touch Boronia Park, Hunters Hill, Woolwich. So all these
If I could just answer the question, I did mention earlier tonight that Hunters Hill Village is currently about to have a look at the master plan for that site. So the second one is Boronia is under LMR, so that will prop some development down there. Yeah, but it's still additional work. And anyone can tell me that if you can't come from Rye into Hunters Hill and use some of the facilities, it happens either way. So when we spend it in Hunters Hill, it actually benefits the whole area.
So the rest of the area that's benefiting isn't copying the brunt. So all these areas are going to benefit off it, and you can't.
I hear you, and
but
just remember that this site had a development potential. And so what we're trying to do is get the development potential to deliver something that's better for the community. So it's already 2.7 to 1 or something, I think.
You could change zoning on other areas and then you can develop potential.
That's what we need.
And we might do that as well. We have housing prices, we need houses. Yeah, and we do. Alright, look, I just, lady at the back hasn't asked the question, I don't think I might cut it after that one.
So obviously the sentiment here is that we're all a bit opposed to a 19-story building. We've all shared that, but is anything actually going to happen? Like, is this going to go ahead regardless of, you know, pretty negative community sentiment? Like, what's going to happen?
We have to assess all the comments and report to council based on, you know, the community sentiment. And that will all be put into the documentation, and then council in a position to make a decision.
I think Zach made it really clear. The biggest issue is we don't have the infrastructure, not just the buses. It's, I've had plumbers recently tell me we're on a very old sewer system that's likely to replace parts of Gladesville have had roads dug up. We're constantly having scheduled power outages in Gladesville because they've got to maintain the power of the properties that are already here. Gladesville Public School, I don't know if it still has, but up to a couple of years ago, there were so many demountables in there. They're at capacity. You go to Wright Hospital emergency and you leave because you're not going to see a doctor before you die if you wait now. We don't have the infrastructure to have all, not just these 555 units, or when you factor in all the others that are coming or are already here, we do not have the infrastructure. The state government sold off the bus service to busways. Busways cannot get bus drivers. All of us that catch buses see the posters on them calling for advertising for bus drivers. They cannot get them. We're at the bus stops in the morning and in the evening with our trip planner app showing all buses that have been cancelled. Yeah. And when the buses do get to our bus stops, they sail straight past because they're already full.
All right, thanks for that. We've noted the transport issues early in the night, and then we'll take it on board. I'd like to now thank you all.
It's a housekeeping question, not a question.
Okay.
I think a few people, including myself, have not had the questions that we posted in.
Come and see us at the end. But we will put them all up on the website as well. Yeah. So if you're burning to get an answer tonight, come and see myself here.
And one last, a show of hands, any councillors other than the mayor tonight?
Yeah, they're all here. Everyone's, all 7 councillors are here. And we have about 7 staff here as well. So thanks to the staff that have come along to support us, and to the councillors as well, and to you guys. I think we kept it pretty simple most of the night, so well done. Thank you, and happy to get your submissions. Happy to get emails directly from you, and we'll try and get back to you, but we will get those questions and answers on to the website as soon as possible, and send any others through that you have, we'll try and answer for you as well. But make your submissions, that's the most important thing.
Thanks.
So thank you.